The Graziadio School of Business and Management at Pepperdine University proudly presents the Dean's Executive Leadership Series. This podcast invites top business practitioners and thought leaders to share their view on the real world of business.
Well, I think I'm going to go straight to questions from the audience, and I'll sprinkle in a few as we go along. We'll take a few minutes to respond. Okay, I saw the hand at the back right there first, so we'll start with you. And speak up so we can all hear. That'd be great.
The country of Thailand has what you would consider perhaps quality assurance issues is a polite term. I'm curious why you did choose Thailand.
Oh, it's a great question. We'd talked 5 or 6 years ago about stepping up, and if we were going to be a global brand, that we needed to find a place to manufacture the product. Duties and tariffs, shipping finished goods from here to there just wasn't working. It wasn't an effective business model, as you could well understand. So there are many choices: China, Pakistan, India. I mean, there were lots of choices, but Thailand came through for a number of reasons. Number one, we own the dirt, we own the land, we own the building, we have title to it, and there are employees. We're not hiring contract manufacturing from somebody else to deliver to us. We own it all, and they report to us, and they will meet our exact standards. So those are our employees. That's very important to us. Number two is Bangkok, or Thailand, is the 4th largest sugar-producing country in the world. And so we have access to sugar, and we have access to tapioca syrup. And tapioca syrup is non-GMO, so we can make those products for Marks & Spencer and other Western European countries that demand non-GMO product. The incentives that the Thai government offered, we're in a duty-free zone, so we get to import and export duty-free. And we have business incentives that go out several years for training and establishing business there. And when you add it all up, it just made sense for us to go to Thailand.
Can you tell us what GMO means?
Genetically modified organism, yeah. We don't know much about it here. It's a big ticket item in the UK. God, in England, they're obsessed with it. Yes.
Hi.
Right here, and then we'll come over here.
So actually, my company works with camps for kids with diabetes. Thank you. My company works with camps for children with diabetes.
Yes.
Have you explored producing your product in a sugar-free?
We do. We do make it in sugar-free right now. Yeah, we have many of our flavors available. I
didn't notice it in your presentation, which is why I was asking it.
It's not a big part of our business, but we do sugar-free in a number of our brands. And one of the things that we found with sugar-free is that it does have a mild laxative effect, so you don't want to eat a large quantity of it. Does that make sense?
That's good to know, because that would actually be much better than some of the laxatives that are out there. So
Yeah.
We'll have to remember that. We'll have to remember that one. No, that's good. Over here.
I'd like to ask you, how do you plan to manage what seems to be a knowledge management problem that's coming up? You mentioned that you have this expert, which is a number one, and there's nobody like him, and the other who works with him. And I mean, it seems that the flavors and the new things come from a core number of people. How do you continue to transmit their knowledge or replace them over time?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah, I was half kidding about Ambrose. He is very important to us. There are a few people that are more important. We do have a number of food scientists that work for us. Our biggest source of flavor ideas come from flavor companies. We have 40 different flavor company vendors that we work with around the world. And we're the first one, when they try or want to try something new, we're the first ones to get to see any new essence or any new flavor profile, because they know what we can do with it. So we've got ourselves in a good position there. Sustainability over a period of time as we're developing, it's just core to what we do. It's a very collaborative practice that we have, and ideas surface from, like I said, our own employees and from a number of different sources. And we just talk about it all the time. I don't think there's a meeting that we go to we don't talk about the next new idea. And so it's just ingrained in us, and it's the expectation that we have. So I think that we're doing a good job with the new people that come on board that understand that that's very much a part of their job description and their role, and the expectation we have as a company is always bring those ideas forward. Now, obviously we can't do everything with all of them, and part of our challenge is to identify the ones that we can truly do something with. So.
Right.
Yes.
Kurt?
Can you talk a little bit about the idea vetting process, and then once it's accepted, how quickly you're actually able to implement that into your stream of business?
Probably one of our core competencies, our biggest strengths is our speed to market and decision-making processes. We're a very lean organization. We can move things, ideas very, very quickly from R&D. We use our instincts and intuition. We've been at this a long time. We know intuitively when something will work. We don't have to go test it or try it. It's just something that's worked for us. Once we decide what we're going to do, and we do this in a number of ways. Our executive group gets together. We have a panel that does tasting together, and we circulate ideas that way. But once we get it into R&D and they come back over, it moves very, very quickly. And because we control every aspect of the packaging design and the creative and the marketing and promotion behind a product like that, we can turn things around in a heartbeat. And I showed you the fruit snacks for Costco. It came from their idea to the shelf in 5.5 months. And just to show you, that's a co-branded item at Costco. And just to show you how quickly we can do things. So we're real proud of that. I think it's the strength of what we do.
Related to that, you talked about being a lean organization. You told me earlier that you have 17 direct reports. So
I must be crazy.
You must be, yeah, a little bit crazy. No. So talk a little bit about the philosophy that leads to a structure like that and why that's so effective.
Well, it works. First of all, I have very, very strong staff that are responsible for all the functional parts of our business, and they know what the expectations are and how to deliver to them. And I just provided guidance and direction and a little bit of interaction. But for us, it's working across functional areas, and I personally can break down all the barriers that can exist or might exist when you have layers of management or silos, and it doesn't exist because we just don't allow it to. And it's not an option whether you choose to work together collaboratively to deliver the expected outcome. It is very much an expectation that I have. And so wherever we run into those kinds of obstacles, we eliminate them very quickly. And it makes everybody focus on the prize. It makes everybody focus on the outcome that you're looking for. And so I think it's to our advantage not to have the layers of management that are involved. It only complicates things and slows down the processes and creates bottlenecks. So I hope that
No, that's helpful.
it's not. I know it's not contemporary.
Probably not textbook, but it works well for you all, and it's
hard to
wonderful
argue
to
with
hear
our
sort of
success.
different models for doing this.
Yes.
From an HR standpoint, how do you select people that will buy into your culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. At Jelly Belly, our culture, it's not so much what you do, it's how you do it. So when I'm interviewing for key positions, and I sit on most interviews, I'm using my own instincts and intuition to look for somebody who I feel is very, is not self-serving, doesn't have a personal agenda, who wants to contribute to the benefit of the company and add value where they can, and not look to advance their own personal agenda or take credit or place blame. They have to let go of all those things. They have to let go of their ego. They have to be willing and free to accept the culture that we have in a non-threatening way and want to be able to maintain that those are important values that we have as an organization. And so if I sense that it's just not going to work, it just doesn't fit for their personality type, that's what I'm guided by. Yeah. And I think all of our managers that hire are guided by the same thing. It's how you do it. Yeah.
I'm following up on that. How do you acknowledge people when they do something great? You don't want them to take, what did you say? Don't take credit, but don't blame. But also, how do you acknowledge them so that they feel really great about what they've done?
Yeah, recognition is important, and I think that recognition is more meaningful when it's done in a very sincere, forthright manner. And it doesn't have to be done in public, but that's your job as a manager, is to recognize. That's not. I don't like people that are raising their hand trying to draw attention to themselves or beat their own drum. I mean, that to me, I'm not saying I'm insulted by that, but that's my job as a manager to know what they do and how they do it and what they've contributed. And so I think all of our managers understand that, and they recognize people for what they do in a very private way and make them feel good about their contributions. And then we celebrate together. I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
I'm going to go back here to the back. Yeah.
As a family business, how do you deal with succession planning?
That's a sore subject. One thing about, I've only worked in family-owned businesses. I can't tell you anything different. I worked at Raley's, and it was family-owned, so there are so many parallels between the two. I mean, when I started at Raley's, there were 12 stores. When I left, there were 150 doing $3 billion. And so it was just this rapid growth. And it's hard when you go down to the next generation. When Tom Raley was alive, there were no issues. When Joyce Raley, she's the only kid, no issues. She has 7 kids, issues, right? And grandkids now, big issues.
Why do you think that this family has been so successful through 6 generations? Because most family-owned businesses don't make it past the 3rd generation. Why have they been so successful? Are there any keys, do you think, to sort of that family or their values that have led to that?
Well, I think they never lost sight of where they came from. The one thing that they have is such a great respect for their heritage and what put them in this position and all the hard work that's gone before them. And they're wonderful historians. I mean, the 4 kids in Herm have done a marvelous job of keeping track of all the stuff that's happened since the late 1800s, since their great-grandparents immigrated here. And they're very proud of that fact. And so there's this respect that they have. And they have respect for everybody that's gone before them, their parents certainly, and all the hard work and everything that has been done to prepare them for this opportunity. And the Jelly Belly came along in the late 70s. And it was, that was their recognition and reward for all the hard work. The kids today have a very common respect for each other, and they all have very functional jobs. I was hired more professional management to fit in and contribute where I can and to help them learn the business at a different level. And I know what my role is, and we all get along just fine. But I couldn't ask for a better situation. They have a lot of respect for their father and everything that's gone before them. And there's not a jealous bone in their body. I think that's what helps, too. They root for each other's success, and that helps a lot.
That's great. Okay, we'll take these 2 questions, and then we'll bring this to a close. So we'll start here and then go back.
Well, Bob, first, thank you for a very entertaining presentation. I've got 2 brief questions. The first is, would it be true to say that your company has probably the most expensive dental plan in the world?
Probably.
And the second one is more interesting for me, though. What are your acquisition criteria?
Oh, that's good. As far as dental work, I think that's the demonization of sugar, as we call it. I think sugar is a good thing. Everybody agrees it's a good thing. I mean, it's a part of a healthy diet, right? Just like ice cream, you don't eat half a gallon of ice cream, so don't eat 2 or a 4-pound jar of Jelly Bellies. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. A little bit of sugar is a good thing. And it's interesting. I think that's such a media thing. And as we've learned about Jelly Belly and nutrition, and we become more focused on those things, I've learned a lot about sugar. And I've sat on the executive board of the NCA, and I know that this is very much a media type of issue. And it kind of, comes and goes, but it gets blamed for obesity now and hypertension and all those sort of things. The fact is that there is no spike and crash. See, but that's the perception that's out there. There is a rise in glucose, blood level sugar, but it doesn't crash. It goes back to normal. If it crashes, it goes back to you're really diabetic is what the problem is. But there's always this perception of a spike and a crash, and that doesn't happen. So that's just a misconception.
And your acquisition criteria?
Acquisition criteria, we don't have any. Family, Herm's family, and these are family businesses, knew that family, and the Sunkist brand is something that we all thought would be a good fit for us. And it was a phone conversation, and they had a handshake over the phone and said, work out the details.
You don't see business done like that much anymore, do you?
No.
That's amazing. And we'll conclude with your question back here.
I looked at this packet. It's a skunk spray. I thought April 1st has got to be something to do with it. My question is, this is the first time I've been to a meeting like this where people have not really talked about competition. And it seems that you may have an interesting background to that. You've not talked about any of your competitors? Is it because you're so focused and to do the right thing for your customers that you don't worry about it, or is there something behind that?
Well, that's a great question. We don't look in the rearview mirror, no, and not much. A lot of people copy what we do, and we do what we have to do legally to protect ourselves all over the world, as you all know. That's a big item. I spend a lot of time with attorneys doing that. But our focus is on the next best thing, and we want to be the ones that discover that. So that's I can't say it any clearer than that. In the candy industry, I will tell you this, that it's a unique industry in the fact that we all contribute to it, and we root for everybody's success. It's not competitive like the beverage industry or any of those others that are just so at each other's throat. These are families that would help out. If we had a fire and our warehouse burnt down, we'd have 15 phone calls from companies saying, what can we do to help you? And we do the same for them. And that's what's been done. And that's the expectation. I just went to the Western Candy Conference. These are all family-owned and run businesses. And we socialized together. We went on cruises. We did, you sit at each other's table and you ask and you reconnect and build those relationships. It's mostly social. There wasn't very little to do with the business part of the agenda for the whole conference. But it's a unique industry in that way. And but I think for us to be successful, we need to do what we need to do, and we need not worry about what anybody else is doing.
Wonderful. I'm going to close with one question I actually asked him. We did an interview prior to the reception and the event tonight, and it will be podcast, so you can go online or to iTunes, and you can actually hear that. It was probably about a 25-minute interview, so if you want to hear a bit more about some of these issues and some things maybe we didn't talk about in detail, you can certainly do that. But the concluding question I asked him on that, and I'll ask him now, is related to kind of what we try to accomplish as a business school. Our mission, as I told you then, is to develop value-centered leaders. And so share with this group kind of what you did on the podcast, just about what you see as maybe some of the core values that are important to you as a leader and that sort of drive how you make your decisions in the organization.
Those are great questions. I don't really think of it in terms of leadership traits that were strong, and I think that leaders lead by example. I mean, you've got to be willing to do it. The example I used for Linda was that our owner has built a culture there, and he's done it by, if there is a paper on the floor, he'll pick it up. If something's broken, he'll fix it. Right then, if there's a mess over there, he'll stop what he's doing and clean it up himself. He won't ask for help. He won't expect anybody to run over and help him. Now, that sends a very powerful message to the rest of the organization. And there is nothing beneath anyone in there. And that's what I'm looking for, a fit that understands what their role is and that can fit into an organization that's built with that kind of culture. But we remember where we came from and appreciate all the things that we have today. And so for our leaders, it's to take that message and make sure that those expectations, the people that we hire and that work for them understand it, and the people they manage understand it. And so to perpetuate that, that's what we're really looking for.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Bob. We really appreciate having you here and appreciate what you've shared with us. So
Thank you.
And Larry, thank you for connecting us with Bob. We really appreciate that. And it's so wonderful to see all of you here tonight. We hope that you'll come back to some of the events that we have coming up in the future, and just appreciate so much your support of the school and the work that Larry does up here, and we'll look forward to being back soon. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you.